Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for attending our COVID-19 Town Hall Unanswered Questions live stream. My name is Holly Foxworth. I'm a registered nurse here at Axiom Medical, and I'm also joined by Chuck Cable, Axiom's Chief Legal and HR Officer, and also John Eldridge, COO and Head of Operations Excellence with our newest partner for Check Into Work, ISS Facility Services. So welcome to the live stream, gentlemen. How are you?
John here. Thank you very much, Holly, for the introduction. I'm excited to be here and doing well. Appreciate
Great.
it.
Chuck, are you there as well?
Doing great, Holly. Yeah, I'm here. Unfortunately, I'm not able to be video right now, but happy to be on today.
Great, perfect. Well, before we get into the follow-up questions, I did want to mention I've still had a number of you that have reached out and asked, how can I have my COVID-19 questions answered by the experts? And so we've made that process really easy and accessible for everybody. If you'll simply just email your questions to coronavirus@axiomllc.com, I can promise you that we will get those answers that you need. So anything from health to HR to what to expect in the future, we're here to help in any way that we can. So don't hesitate to reach out. So in Thursday's webinar, you both spoke to the importance of a healthy workplace and a healthy workforce as being essential elements for really returning to the work, which prompted several questions from our audience, which we were hoping that you guys could provide some insight on. Chuck, I'll come to you first. Malcolm had referenced more COVID-19 testing becoming available and asked whether they should rely on this type of testing to release employees from isolation. So I know as far as Axiom is concerned, we have a really specific CDC and best practice guidance that we utilize in our screening process that continues through the subsequent absence and then ultimately the return to work. But do you want to maybe expand upon the importance of really having a clearly defined policy and process to address this in the workplace? Chuck, are you there with us?
I think you just came through, Holly. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can, yeah. We can go ahead and
good. I'm sorry, I've got a bad signal.
That's okay, that's all right.
So I'm
No
happy
problem
to comment. Hopefully folks can hear me. So I think from a practical perspective, we touched on last time the fact that testing is still very much developing, right? We don't know how accurate it is other than kind of the studies that suggest not very. So to the extent a business wants to rely upon just a test to release people back to work, I think there is a risk related to doing that. And so it's up to the organization to determine whether that risk is acceptable and or evaluate the testing as it continues to develop until it gets to a place where the accuracy is such that you feel more comfortable and it's within your risk tolerance. I think at this point in time,
I think we may have lost Chuck for a second. John, I'll go ahead and move on.
Last year, administering that policy discipline.
Okay. John, I know that you guys have really been busy at ISS helping to get facilities up and running. So Joshua had asked whether you have seen any pushback from customers and really kind of pushing back those plans for bringing people back into the office. Have you seen any of that, John?
No, we actually, to your point, first point, Holly, yeah, we're seeing a lot of activity of coming back to work, which is a great thing for obviously for everybody involved. That's going very well. Are we seeing any pushback? No. What we are seeing is a bunch of different plans and phasings of how many people a customer's bringing back at a time and how close they're allowing them to get together. Are they staggering different things that are happening throughout the day and different shifts? And it all really, what we're seeing is it depends on the industry that they're in. But they're generally what we're seeing is some percentage of their population is coming back to work. And the other percentage that is more ideal to work from home is working from home. But we have not seen any customers that have necessarily had to come in with a plan and then back off of that plan. The plans have so far been very well thought out and followed. And of course, we've done everything we can to support that through with our teams, being on the front lines. But yeah, that so far, no pushbacks.
So walk us through, tell us kind of some of the questions that have came up when you've been asked to kind of step in and help get these facilities back in order to reopen again. Can you think of some? frequent questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, the biggest questions are, what do I do? What should I do from a facilities perspective? And that's perfect because we do have a lot of great plans and programs for going back to work. Everything from, is the building safe? Is the building, is it virus free? Of course, there's no way really to make sure of that. There's lots of things we can do via ATP and other stuff, which we are doing in our program that can make sure it's as clean as possible. But what is the plan? What are your SOPs? What are your checklists? What is it that you recommend we have you guys do? And then supplementary, what do you recommend we do with our employees to make them feel safe? And obviously that's a big part of this Axiom partnership actually is we can get the building ready and as relatively sanitized and clean as possible. We can make sure that the ventilation and the HVAC systems are all ready to go and they've been cleaned, and make sure, any chilled water and all that stuff that might have been stagnant for a long time is ready to roll. But then how do we keep it that way? And a lot of our clients, the questions that we get asked are, how do we make sure it remains that way over time versus, yeah, it's great when we come back and then it slowly gets back to quote unquote normal where maybe we don't want it anymore.
Great point. Well, John, I believe it was you that had actually mentioned the use of technology last week whenever we were speaking in the webinar, and you had talked about maybe some voice activation and some technology that came along with that, and some of the things that could be incorporated into the workplace in the future. So I guess the question that had came up was between those types of advancements and things like check into work, which really help to instill the confidence in knowing that you're returning to a safe workplace. Is that the type of technology that you think is really giving these employees the reassurance that they need to return to a safe workplace?
It certainly helps. As much comfort as we can give our clients' employees when they come back into the office, as well as our employees for that matter, that they're coming back into a safe, well taken care of, well cared for, and a reoccurring program, the better. And of course, a big piece of that is the technology. If they know that everybody that came into work was screened in the morning and was screened before they leave for the day and go out into mass transit or however else they may be, transiting to their residence, then that's a big piece of it. And this, the Axiom technology is a part of that. And of course, they're also very keen to understand what other technologies might be out there that while they can still interact with other humans, which is very important, and we're finding is one of the drawbacks, obviously, from working from home, as we can all see around us today. There's still that desire to have the interaction, but not necessarily have to touch as many things that everybody else is touching. So there's a lot of different technologies out there being explored for that, and pretty exciting what that may do, even beyond COVID, what that could do and what that could change.
It does sound like it maybe will take us to the next level and kind of advance the discussion forward. Well, Joshua brought up a good point that we're seeing a lot that's came up in the media, and especially in businesses like medical facilities that are requiring face coverings. They're taking temperatures, and yet they say that the majority of the public is not implementing some of these measures. And so the audience had asked, wondering what we might expect to see in terms of industries requiring PPE such as facial coverings. Have you had any interaction in terms of your customer base there as far as what they're implementing? Are they utilizing the face coverings and some of these other protective measures?
Yeah, they generally all seem to be going with whatever the recommendations are by the agency that they choose, whether it be the WHO or the CDC or any other agency, is going with that recommendation. One of the big things we see is a need to make sure that whatever PPE they're going with is available when people come into the door. If they forget to bring theirs or whatever, do we have some disposables, et cetera, et cetera. So we are seeing a pretty big desire to protect people as much as possible. Again, no solution is necessarily perfect, as we know, but there's definitely a desire to do the right thing and make people as comfortable as possible. And part of that is absolutely PPE.
Absolutely. Yeah. I like that idea about what you mentioned about having some of that available. So do you have customers then that are making additional supplies available if employees or some of their customers are not bringing them with them so that they can access them before they enter the building?
Yeah, I would say almost all, if not all, are either through us or through other means, and generally through us, procuring enough PPE to have in the lobbies and then the reception areas, so that if there's a policy on site to wear that when you're within 6 feet or whatever the policy may be, that we're also giving them the means to do that if they didn't bring that with them.
Great. Well, John, I think that we've lost Chuck, so we'll save our legal questions for Chuck, but I did have one additional question. Sarah had asked what type of response that you're seeing to those that have utilized some of the 6-foot social distancing signage on the floor. So do you have clients that have implemented this?
Yes. The short answer is yes. I would say almost all have implemented it to some extent, at least into common areas. And we're doing a lot of that. We have a whole kind of coming back to work package, called Pure Space, that we've implemented, and all of that is it's global, by the way, and all of that is recommending various signage for various locations and various distances, even for various locations. We have a whole SOP and all of the signage package and all of that good stuff. And pretty much every client has some level of that in place today. We're even seeing it on manufacturing floors.
Wow. Okay. So in addition to some of the signage then about the social distancing, what type of other signage are you seeing that they're implementing?
It's generally obviously the distance, for sure. And it's a lot of reminders of being respectful for others, respecting space, even if there's no sign. We can't have signs everywhere. We can't cordon off an entire building in 6-foot squares. So there's still a lot of common courtesy signs out there that are, if you're going into a coffee bar, that maybe there's a 6-foot sign here, but over by all the condiments, there's not. So it's constant reminders of that, and even going as far as some clients are even asking for resources, and which we've now got SOPs and training programs for some of our frontline staff to actually go around and make sure people feel comfortable and remind people of the rules and that kind of stuff, to keep it as welcoming as possible, with some obvious restrictions that need to happen right now given the climate.
Okay. Well, I think that's going to do it for our questions that we have listed, since we regretfully lost Chuck. But is there anything else that you would like to add, John, or anything else you'd like to share?
No, I think I just would say thank you, Holly, and thanks to the Axiom team. This has been a lot of fun. Hopefully there's a silver lining here, that this has forced us to think outside the box and think about different ways to keep people healthy. That there's not a lot of silver linings with stuff like this, but maybe this is one of them. And just, again, be safe, and thank you.
Great. Well, John, I really appreciate you joining us today. Just a few quick mentions. If you haven't already signed up, we do have another webinar that we're hosting on Thursday at 1:00 p.m. Central, addressing the transformation that's quickly happening with employee technology. So we'd love to have you join us for that. Also, if you're looking for additional information about risk mitigation and return to work strategies, Chuck Cable has authored an excellent white paper called The World After COVID-19. You can access a free copy of that publication on our website. And don't forget to send us your town hall questions to coronavirus@axiomllc.com. John, before we let you go, tell us how others can reach out to you directly.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of information for our marketing team on Insight. I'm sorry, not on Insight, on LinkedIn, as well as obviously reach out to me, me personally as well. If there's any questions you have, it's just john.eldridge@us.issworld.com. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to help answer questions and see how we can be of service to help your business.
Perfect. Well, if you have any questions regarding the Coronavirus Rapid Response Program or Check Into Work, please be sure and reach out. Again, we thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to talking to you Thursday at the webinar. Take care.